This is chapter 2 of Locked Up. If you keep quiet for some time, this can be over for you as soon as possible. There was no more protest, just silent sobbing as the girl stepped in, turning around as the door closed behind her. She was embracing herself as if being cold. I saw at once that her hands were free. Out of the pocket of her jeans she took a handkerchief, blowing her nose loudly. She was a girl still, I figured. Probably the age of Jeremy, beginning 20s. Her long, light brown hair was being held in a ponytail. She wore western boots, a t-shirt and a light vest. She turned once more. "Is there anybody?" She hadn't looked down and almost stumbled over Jem on the floor, letting out a squeaky scream. It was me speaking softly. "Stay calm. This is just Jem. Do not trot on him." She turned anxiously in my direction, fixing me with her stare until her eyes accustomed to the dark and she looked as if recognizing me as a person at last. "Who are you?" she whispered. "Sit down, girl. We are not in a hurry. I'm Maria." All of a sudden I was so calm I didn't recognize myself anymore. She did not sit down, but only stood in the middle of the stable looking in turns at me and Jem. "What's your name?" I asked. I had a feeling she needed being kept occupied in order not to freak out. With an erratic move she turned back to me. "Gabrielle," she said. Only now did I really recognize the light French accent. "Okay, Gabrielle, now tell. What are you doing here? Why did they lock you up?" She turned her head wildly. "I don't know. I really don't know. They must not harm my horse." "You came here by horse?" I asked. I saw that Jem had finally managed to lift himself up again. I longed asking Gabrielle to help us with the ropes, but I was afraid she would be so confused still she might only get nervous. "Yes, and I need to be back in the evening, writing back to my parents. They wait for my email." "That's all right," I said quietly. "First of all, you need to calm down. Then we can see to that." I glanced at Jem, whom she, looking at me, couldn't see. He gave me a weak but encouraging smile. "It's not all right," she said squeakingly. "It's not all right at all. How can you say that? What are you doing here anyway? Are you belonging to them?" "No," I said, lifting my tight hands. She almost jumped back, drawing in her breath. I oppressed a very unhumorous laugh. "I'm not dangerous," I said. "And neither is Jem." As I said it, something cold crept along my spine. I realized I didn't know Jeremy at all. "Are you on the same side just because you're being locked up together?" I pushed this thought away. Only a few minutes before it was me trying to free him. Why should he all of a sudden not be on my side? Gabrielle was still staring at me. "Why did they tie you up?" she whispered. I shrugged my shoulders very shortly. "Guess 'cause I tried to run away," I offered. "But I tried that as well," she said. "I gave them some fine kicking additionally," I added with a smile I didn't really mean. "But I don't know really why they did it. I guess it's not possible to open this door from the inside anyway." "But if the three of us have got free hands, we might find a way out," she said, sounding pleading. "It would be a try at least," I answered, my heart jumping. "But do you think you could open those bonds?" "Let me try." I forced myself to stay calm. I was still afraid she would change her mind out of some funny mood. I didn't tell her to help Jeremy first, despite of his position looking much more uncomfortable, so anxious was I about finally getting my hands free again. Jem stayed patient. As I glanced at him, he looked almost asleep, sitting there leaning his back against the stable wall. Gabrielle advanced me, being surrounded by a cloud of odeur de horse. She had a slightly longish face, quite pretty, with dark wide eyes, a narrow nose and nicely bent lips. I held my hands out towards her and she started to fumble with the ropes. Funnily enough, I had this feeling that as soon as my hands would be free, also my thoughts would become much clearer. What an illusion. Gabrielle managed rather quickly to free me, and I was now really wondering how I could not have done it by myself. She was turning to Jem on the floor, kneeling down beside him. As she was finished, Jem was sitting up groaning. "Thanks," he said, rubbing his wrists. Gabrielle helped him as well, loosening the ropes around his ankles. I didn't move much. I was leaning my back against the wooden wall, feeling tired. Some time had passed when Jeremy was shaking my shoulder, trying to wake me up. "Maria, get up, it's supper time." In my dream it had been Thomas waking me up, so I was completely disoriented when I opened my eyes, looking into Jem's face in the darkness of the stable. I didn't know where to put my memories of this face, so I got up with a soft yelp. "My God, don't frighten me," I said accusingly. "Come on, lady," he said, helping me up. I saw Gabrielle already at the door, which stood open. Behind her, kerosene lamps in their hands, were two of these heavily built men who had brought me here and who were, as far as I knew, doing maintenance work on the plant. "What's happening?" I whispered. I still felt Jem's hand holding onto my upper arm, and it felt good, a reassuring, stable feeling in all this chaos. "Seems that we've been invited for dinner," he said, with a grim smile. We followed them towards the next building, went through a dimly lit large garage, out again, and into another building that was smaller, built out of wood and looked a bit like a barrow cottage. Some wooden tables were scattered in the room, surrounded by wooden chairs. The walls were papered with pictures of oil plumbing as well as of herbs and animals. I saw at once that the room had another door leading to the bathrooms probably, but maybe as well out again on the other side. But it would not be easy attempting to escape. We were far inside the country, and it would be only possible for me to reach back to town in about 3 or 4 days. Not without my bag, though, providing me with food and especially my tools. Running away just like that seemed rather foolish. Somehow, just a tiny bit, I also wanted to find out how they had got me, as well as what the other two were doing here in the middle of the wilderness. Jem had already given so many hints that he was not just a hiking lad, so what was he up to? And what about Gabrielle? Not even riding, she could have expected to be back in town the same evening. Was she going a trail, or was she just completely lost? I sensed the smell of food in the room, even though there was no one around cooking, and I realized how long I had been without food already. "You can start eating in a moment," the larger of the two men in a red checkered lumberjack shirt said. "But first you're going to see the consultant. You're first." He addressed Jeremy and went out with him through the back door. Gabrielle and I sat down at one of the tables. The other guy locked the door where we had come in and went out through the back door as well. We were alone. "Have I been asleep for a long time?" I asked, just for the sake of talking to her. "A bit. Now, since there was more light, I saw that she was looking really exhausted as well. "How long have you been riding?" I asked. "For 2 days," she said, "and I know it would have taken me at least another day to get back again. But I was supposed to get back to my parents. They're quite anxious, you know." "You do look like a grown-up woman to me," I said, despite my own feelings. "For them, I'm still their little girl," she answered, ending in a sob, tears rolling down her face. I sighed and pushed away the thought of my own parents. For them, I'd never been their little girl. I was the oldest one, fitted with responsibility right away. Of course, they were not happy about my choices, quitting one study after the other, but it was still my business, all my own responsibility. "What did you know about this place before?" I asked curiously. "I didn't know that it existed. I wasn't riding past here either. They stopped me when I was looking for a place where to cross the pipeline." I looked in her face, searching for a hint. If that was true, she was really a victim of all too bad circumstances. "Why is Jeremy not coming back?" she asked. I was wondering the same. I was really feeling hungry now. "Don't know. If each of us is going to take that long with their consultant, we might starve before we get any food." "So why do they want us to talk to a consultant?" She started thinking aloud. Do I know? We were quiet for a while, each hanging after her own thoughts. When Jeremy finally came back, he looked weary. His attendant approached me. "You're next." That was chapter 2. Thank you for listening.